Минулого тижня наша програма «Контакт Next разом з Українською шкільною радою організувала лекцію з Маркусом Колгою, канадським експертом з цифрової безпеки та дезінформації, експертом у справах питань Східної Європи та Росії. Ця зустріч на тему дезінформації відбулася в рамках Leadership Speaker Series для студентів українознавства українських суботніх шкіл, щоб навчати нашу молодь розпізнавати фальшиву інформацію у медіа, яку Росія використовує як ще один фронт боротьби проти України та проти правди. Пропонуємо вам подивитися першу частину цієї лекції.
Сьогодні ми маємо цікаву лекцію, і коли ми її планували, навіть нам не було таке на думці, що ми будемо зустрічатися в таких умовах. Сьогодні в Україні війна. Як ніколи нам потрібно знати, як можна відрізняти правильну інформацію від дезінформації, від фейк-ньюз. Цим ми можемо зробити свій вклад у допомогу Україні, поширювати правильні новини і інформувати тих, хто не знає, що відбувається в Україні. І сьогодні з нами є Маркус Колга. Він вам розповість детальніше, прочитає дуже цікаву лекцію. So Marcus Kolga is the founder and director of Disinformation and a senior fellow at the Macdonald-Laurier and Canadian Defense Association Institutes. He is a journalist, filmmaker, digital communication developer, and human rights activist. So Marcus, I just quickly to recap what I was saying in my introduction, that unfortunately today, when we planned this lecture, we had no idea that we will be meeting in such circumstances. But today, every one of us can do something to help Ukraine. And it's very important to know how to distinguish fake news from real truth. And I hope that your lecture today will help our students exactly to do that. So welcome, Marcus.
Well, thank you so much for asking me to participate and join you all today. It's a great honor. I'm Estonian of heritage. My parents are Estonian. My children are Estonian. I grew up going to Saturday Estonian school, and my children do as well. And in fact, my wife is the principal of the Estonian school here in Toronto. So I know how important these our ethnic heritage schools are, and so it gives me great pleasure to join you and talk about this really important threat. What Ukraine is going through right now, what your community is going through and has been going through, and how Russian information operations, this is fake news or disinformation, how it's targeting Ukraine and the community right here, because you as a community are being directly targeted by that. So thank you so much for allowing me to talk to you about this important issue today.
Thank you, Marcus, for being with us. In the end, when Marcus finished, you can ask questions, post them in the chat or raise your hand, and Marcus will be happy to answer that. And Oksana Levitska, our principal, will be monitoring the questions. Thank you very much, Marcus. Go ahead.
I'm going to give you a bit of an overview of what disinformation is, what influence operations look like, and all of this we term as cognitive warfare. This is sort of an attack on how we think about things, our psychology, our understanding of various different issues. So we're going to first look at some definitions, what disinformation is, what misinformation is. We're going to look at why we're under attack, who's attacking us, what the goals and what the outcomes are, why governments and individuals might be attacking us, how they're attacking us, what kind of narratives, what kind of stories do they use, and what kind of lies, more specifically, do they use to attack us. And then we'll look a bit at how we can defend ourselves against this, how we can recognize misinformation and the lies that are used to attack us. So there are three different sort of forms of misinformation and disinformation. The first is misinformation. This is false information, wrong information that is spread around regardless of the intent. So that means that people aren't specifically trying to lie or deceive you, but maybe just sending out some false information. Disinformation is deliberately misleading. These are lies. These are lies that are being created specifically to mislead you and me and anyone else who sees them. And then there's malinformation. So, I think maybe some of you have heard of deep fakes before. These are, sort of videos where there's somebody, AI and technology is used to make it look like somebody is saying something or doing something in a video, but it's actually all computer generated. It could be audio where bits of a person's voice are put together to make it sound like they're saying something. And malinformation is also, it's hacked information that's leaked. It's really nasty sort of stuff. And that's also used in these information operations. Now, this isn't anything new. Disinformation is nothing new. I think that some people in the Canadian media think that it's a new phenomenon that's happening. Those of us of Central and Eastern European heritage know that this has been going on for nearly 100 years. The Soviets, when they occupied many of our countries, especially Joseph Stalin, was very good at this. And he was the first sort of pioneer of deep fakes. So you see these photos on the right of your screen. This is a photo from the 1930s when the Holodomor was happening and Joseph Stalin was engaging in the Great Purges. He's standing beside the chief of the secret police, Yagoda. He was purged in the 1930s. Joseph Stalin decided that he didn't like him, so a car came up and picked him up in the middle of the night, and he was executed. And Beria took his place. So in the history books and the newspapers, where this photo appeared, where they're standing by the White Canal. This is a gulag project that was a canal that was built with slave labor. Tens of thousands of people died. The bottom photo has Yagoda erased from history, from his presence at any from Stalin's side and any other any other official photo that was taken. So Joseph Stalin has been started engaging in this sort of disinformation as a tactic and a strategy. And that continued throughout the 1960s, 70s, 80s, up until the collapse of the Soviet Union. And Vladimir Putin has taken up that same tactic and has started using it about 22 years ago, but has really intensified his information operations against us in Ukraine over the past year. This is a gentleman named Yuri Basmanov. He defected from the Soviet Union to Canada in the 1980s. And in this interview, he talks about how the Soviets back then viewed disinformation, what their objectives were in disseminating it. So I'm going to play this, and I'm hoping that you can hear it. And if you can't hear it, let me know.
But in reality, the main emphasis of the KGB is not in the area of intelligence at all. According to my opinion and opinion of many defectors of my caliber, only about 15% of time, money, and manpower is spent on espionage as such. The other 85% is a slow process which we call either ideological subversion or active measures, активные мероприятия in the language of the KGB, or psychological warfare. What it basically means is to change the perception of reality of every American to such an extent that despite of the abundance of information, no one is able to come to sensible conclusions in the interests of defending themselves, their families, their community, and their country.
That video, remarkably, was filmed in 1982, and it's just as true today as it was back then. And we saw the warning signs. Unfortunately, we haven't done enough to defend ourselves against these sorts of psychological, information, and cognitive attacks. Now, why are we under attack? And specifically, why are we under attack from Russia? What are they hoping to achieve? So the first thing that they're trying to achieve, as we saw in the video, is the subversion of our democratic processes. This was what the Soviets were trying to do. This is what Vladimir Putin is trying to do. So Vladimir Putin has no ideology. He doesn't support the conservatives in Canada. He doesn't support the liberals. All he wants to do is erode our trust in our democratic processes and turn ourselves against each other, so that our democracy becomes as chaotic as possible. And he's been doing this with large degree of intensity over the past number of years, including with COVID. There's been a lot of disinformation that he's been spreading about that. He also tried, the Russian government also tries to discredit and intimidate critics. This includes elected officials. Chrystia Freeland has been a target of this. Our former defense minister, Harjit Sajjan, has been a target of this. James Bazan, a conservative MP and a good friend of mine in Manitoba, I've been targeted by this. And your community, quite frankly, writ large, has also been targeted by this. And they also try to undermine support for NATO and the Western Defense Alliances. So the alliance that we're in with the United States, the United Kingdom, much of Europe, and what Ukraine should be a part of. Because Vladimir Putin, he's sort of like a schoolyard bully. Alone, it's not easy to stand up to a schoolyard bully, but when we're together, we can stand up to him and we can sock it to him on the nose. What he tries to do is break us apart so that we're not standing together, and it's easier for him than to bully each and every one of us. So he uses disinformation to break apart that alliance. Now, how this works, and I'll do this pretty briefly. You'll see that there's this diagram on the right-hand side with various bubbles. This is how Russian disinformation flows from false narratives and statements. So these are the Russian government. Vladimir Putin thinks up how he wants to deceive us and what his goals are. He then produces these stories, lies, and puts them on the left-hand side, you'll see there Russian state media. These are platforms like RT, Sputnik, and Russian language state media that gets beamed into various different countries, including Canada. For some reason, our government has allowed RT to continue pumping these lies into Canadian households. In fact, 7 million of them at the current moment. So it goes into Russian state media, and sometimes that information flows directly to us through our televisions. Sometimes that information is picked up on social media. So there are individuals and entities called proxies. This could be bots that are programmed to take that information and spread it on social media. It could be a person. There's what's called the St. Petersburg Troll Factory, an office in St. Petersburg, Russia, where there are hundreds of people who can each control thousands of accounts. And they will take those narratives and push those out as well. Once they get out into social media, they go all over the place. And a information operation becomes successful when it comes to us. When we start seeing it and our neighbors and our friends at school start seeing it, that's when we have a real problem. And Russia so far has been very effective at doing that.